I am the second daughter of a fourth-rank official, neither exceptionally talented nor strikingly beautiful. Yet I was chosen by the dashing young marquis as his primary wife. The world called me blessed. Yet I lived in constant dread. On the eve of my wedding, as I bid farewell to my parents in their chamber, I overheard their bitter quarrel. Mother wept hysterically. Why must my daughter bear the burden of the mess her Shin family created? I've uncovered the truth. The young marquis keeps male lover, she only wants Joshua to bear an heir. Father's voice was bitter. Did you expect me to stand by while my father and brothers were imprisoned? To watch the entire Shin family, 108 souls driven from their homes? Only the marquis household can protect them now. The weight that had hung heavy in my heart suddenly settled. So it was all about bearing an heir. Carrying on the family line. Is that it? I've had my fill of being treated like a piece of meat. On the way back, the wet nurse was so distraught she wept. The young marquis favors men, why must he ruin an innocent girl's life? Miss, with just your word, this old servant will risk my life to expose the marquis' filthy schemes and protect you. I knew the nurse was worried for me. Yet, meeting her tear-filled gaze, I shook my head firmly. Yes, the marquis's filth is easy to expose. This marriage is easy to call off. And then what? My father is neither scholarly nor martial. The Shin family relies on my grandfather and eldest uncle to uphold its honor. Once they fall, our family becomes fish on the chopping block. The year the matron returned to her hometown, I witnessed Sister Wami, childhood friend, being shoved by guards into the Ministry of Education. Her grandfather had been implicated in examination fraud. That day, I understood the truth. When the family prospers, we all prosper. When it suffers, we all suffer. Refusing to marry into the marquis household for the family's sake today, who can say what tomorrow may bring? Should grandfather and my eldest uncle fall from grace, Sister Wan stands as my warning. Besides, the young marquis favors men. His inner quarters will surely lack a harem of women. That the dowager marchioness, with all the noble maidens of the capital at her disposal, sought to wed mean ordinary girl as the young marquis' principal wife, shows she herself understands this marriage is a hardship for me. Given this, what have I, Shin Jia, to fear in the confines of the home mansion? For myself, for the Shin family, I shall seek wealth and glory. Thus, on the day of the grand wedding, the young marquis was in his study, drunk as a skunk with his close friend. I could still maintain a warm smile as I ordered the wet nurse to bring him a sobering broth. When the nurse returned, her eyes were bloodshot with fury. Miss, you should have seen if marquis clinging to his dearest friend. Utterly wasted. How are we supposed to endure the days ahead? Perhaps we should appeal to the dowager marchioness. Let her decide your fate. I patted the wet nurse's hand soothingly. Remember, we must never let the marchioness household discover we already know. Facing the wet nurse's stunned expression, I sighed softly. We lack the strength to overturn the table. If the Ho family discovers we know everything yet still submit to their demands, they'll have no qualms. Nanny Ma hugged me tightly, her eyes reddening. My poor girl, poor. My mind drifted to the days after grandfather and my eldest uncle were imprisoned. My eldest cousin, given by my eldest aunt to the old prince as a concubine, and my younger half-sister, whom grandmother had married off to a coarse merchant. Had the marquis household not come seeking a marriage alliance, I shudder to think where my family might have sent me to settle matters. Thus, the next day, I personally carried the young marquis' garments to his study, attending to his ablutions and dressing him. Young Master Liu, frowning as he curled up on the small couch, stared at my hands fastening the marquis' sash. His eyes reddened as he stormed out. The young marquis made a move to chase after him, but I had already smiled sweetly and instructed the wet nurse. Nurse, please take the court physician to see if young Master Liu has eaten something bad. The young marquis halted in his tracks, his expression inexplicably shifting. You're quite the dutiful wife. I knelt to help him into his boots. Before I entered this household, I heard that my lord and young Master Liu were sworn brothers. Anyone my lord cares for, I will cherish and respect. I will never cause my lord any difficulty. Mother has been waiting for some time in Chuanchi Hall. I beg your lordship to take pity on this young and inexperienced wife and accompany your plain bride to meet her mother-in-law. After these words, the young marquis' expression softened slightly. It's rare for you to be so sensible. I held a smile that was just the right amount. Dutiful. Sensible. Humph. Lady Howe's smile froze momentarily as she glanced at my plain features. Only then did she hand me the jade pendant, prepared long ago on the tray. My dear child, young Master Ze's behavior is reckless. You must guide him wisely in the future. Her eyes fixed intently on me, studying my reaction, probably to see if I knew the young Marquis' secret. I flashed a perfectly measured blush. The Marquis is wonderful. I shall manage the household diligently and learn to care for him well. Lady Howe's imposing aura softened considerably. You were raised as a delicate maiden. Now that you've married into the Ho household, A's ought to care for you properly. The Marquisite's affairs are simple, and am not one to nitpick. As long as you two live in harmony and soon give me a healthy baby boy, I'll have no further demands. Catching the impatience in Lu Yan's eyes, I lowered my head with a coy smile. Mother just loves to tease her daughter-in-law. After leaving Chunkitang, the Marquis hurried off to young Master Liu's courtyard. I pondered for a moment, but ultimately decided not to follow. Since marrying into the Marquis' household, I've never been one to fight over a man, especially not to fight over a man. Only after I had registered every item of my dowry did Nanny finally return to me, looking utterly exhausted. This old servant has observed coldly, she said. And it seems the Marquis and that Lu Gongzi have truly fallen for each other. I ordered Shi Qin to bring Nanny her favorite lotus root cakes. Nanny, I said, we married into the Marquis' household to protect the Shin family. Whom the Marquis favors is none of our concern. Nanny exhaled deeply. The Shin family has sent word the old master and the first master have returned to the estate. The Marquis' household kept their promise. I clenched Nanny's hand tightly. The heads of the Shin family had returned. Grandfather and first uncle were skilled at maneuvering. With the Marquis' household backing them now, they would surely resolve the Shin family's crisis. But the lives of my eldest and third cousins could never be undone. Nanny understood me best. Seeing my despondent expression, she sighed and comforted me. In great families, all branches share the same breath. As long as you remain well, others will show favor to the eldest and third daughters for your sake. Our young master shows exceptional talent in his studies. Bear with it a little longer, young lady. Once he establishes himself, you won't be left to bear the burden alone. I lifted the bowl of bloodbird's nest soup the maid had prepared for me and ate it spoonful by spoonful. Life is hard, no matter what path lies ahead. I must first have a healthy body. That night, Lu Yenjia, reeking of alcohol, threw me onto the bed. The stench of liquor assaulted my senses. My body felt as if it had been split open. The pain was so intense I passed out immediately. When I awoke, Lu Yenjia was gone. Only Nanny, her eyes red, was there to wash me, in the dead of night. Young Master Lu suffered an asthma attack. The Marquis didn't even bother putting on his outer robe before rushing off to young Master Liu's courtyard. My body felt as though it had been run over by a cart. Yet I forced myself to sit up. Let's go see him. We can deliver the Lingji from my dowry to young Master Lu while we're there. Nanny scowled indignantly. Does the Marquis show you even a shred of respect or care? You're unwealthy, torment yourself with such filth. I waved her off. I had anticipated these scenes long before marrying into the Marquis' household. If I wished to secure fortune for myself and the Shin family, I must endure what ordinary people cannot. I touched my still flat belly and said with self-mockery, you should be thankful, nurse. No matter how much the Marquis favors young Master Lu, he cannot bear children. Lu Yenjia likely knew his affair with young Master Lu was unspeakable. When the wet nurse and I arrived, the courtyard was deserted. At the entrance, Lu Yenjia and young Master Lu were pouring out their hearts to each other. You're suffering inside. But do you think I'm not tormented sharing a bed with a woman I despise? Young Master Lu was clearly furious. You suffer, yet you live freely and happily, destined for a house full of children and grandchildren. And what of me? For you, I abandoned my future, forsake my reputation, willingly becoming a male concubine in your inner courtyard. Who considers my plight? You were the one who said Shinja was plain as salt and of shallow lineage. You planned to manipulate things, implicating old Master Shin and Elder Shin in a corruption case. We'd have the Shin family and Shinja completely in our grasp. But look at the result. She's already married in. Yet I still can't show my face. Lu Yanzi's voice came in broken snatches. Our affair is disgraceful after all. The worst outcome would be to throw caution to the wind. But she's virtuous and kind. Rest assured. Once she bears our child, I will ensure the child survives while the mother perishes. After giving my mother an account, I will be with you forever. I clutched the wet nurse's hand desperately, the words echoing relentlessly in my mind. Manipulate things to implicate old Master Shin and Master Shin in the embezzlement case. The blade hanging over our Shin family's head. The catalyst that led my sisters into unhappy marriages. And yet, it was all merely to expose their illicit affair. It was clear. Even if the wet nurse had caused a scene before the wedding, pressured by the marquis household's power, I would still have been forced into the marriage by the Shin family. And by then, with the path laid bare, the young marquis and Master Lu would have grown even more brazen. Stepping into the bridal sedan chair sealed the decision to erase a maiden's tenderness. Yet in this moment, hearing that matter-of-fact spare the child, kill the mother, my eyes still stung with bitter hatred. They loved each other madly. Why must others become sacrifices for their sweet romance? Nanny turned ashen-faced, terrified the two inside might spot us. She pulled me to turn and leave, but in our haste, we stepped on the dry leaves in the courtyard. A sharp squeak sounded, like a death knell. Who's there? Lu Yanzi's cold voice echoed from inside the house. Panicked, I dragged the wet nurse to hide behind a pillar under the eaves. Immediately after, young Master Lu clung to Lu Yanzi. Yanzi. What if Shinji, that ugly hag, overheard our conversation? Lu Yanzi patted his hand reassuringly. It matters not. In the inner courtyard of the Shin residence, a woman of ill repute was drowned in a pig cage. The world will only pity me. Even the Shin family will have to come to our door to apologize. The autumn wind whistled coldly. Nanny and I clung flat against the pillar. My body felt numb with cold, yet my palms were drenched in cold sweat. Lu Yanzi's footsteps drew nearer. Shinja, come out. I see you. My heart nearly leapt into my throat. If Lu Yanzi discovered me and Nanny, no matter how many schemes I hatched, no matter how much resentment burned within me, I would die with regret. As my heart thundered, a large black cat leapt from the eaves. Young Master Lu kicked the cat. Yanzi, it's just a fat cat. Lu Yanzi wrapped his arm around young Master Lu and returned indoors. False alarm. Still, this serves as a reminder. We'd do well to remain cautious until Shinja gives birth. Young Master Lu leaned close to Lu Yanzi's ear, murmuring something sweetly. All I could see from where I stood with the wet nurse was Lu Yanzi pinch young Master Lu's buttocks from behind. Finally, the sounds inside grew faint. The wet nurse and I carefully slipped out of young Master Lu's courtyard. On the way back, the color drained completely from Nanny's face. She gripped my arm anxiously. Young miss, what on earth are we to do now? This old servant knows some people at the Taoist temple. Perhaps I could beg for a fertility-suppressing potion. If you cannot conceive, those heartless creatures won't dare kill the mother to save the child. I sniffed back a sob. Do you remember when our eldest cousin returned for her 3-day visit? A flicker of sorrow crossed the wet nurse's face. The old prince was brutal, and the princess consort was jealous. When our eldest cousin returned, she came back with bruises on her face. I closed my eyes. Then you surely haven't forgotten how vulgar and repulsive third cousin's husband looked when he came to propose marriage. Nanny stamped her foot in frustration. Young miss, what time is it now? How can you still be worrying about the eldest and third daughters? However difficult their circumstances, at least their lives are safe. But the man you're marrying is a true wolf in sheep's clothing. That's not how it happened. My eldest cousin had a childhood sweetheart from the Zhang family. Had grandfather and my eldest uncle not fallen on hard times, Lady Zhang would never have broken off the engagement to avoid suspicion. Disregarding her son's wishes and forcing the match with the Shen family, my third cousin excelled in painting. When the empress selected court ladies, she should have been the top choice. Had grandfather and my eldest uncle not fallen from grace, she would have shone brilliantly in her field. Instead, she's confined to a courtyard, dealing with the very gold and silver she despises most. Grandfather and my eldest uncle were skilled at navigating politics, never daring to speak an extra word, never daring to offend anyone. Yet all this delicate balance was shattered by Lu Yanjia and Lu Qingxi's so-called love. I married into this family as they wished, becoming a lifeless wooden pillar, a mere vessel for bearing an heir. Yet they had the heartlessness to demand I undergo a cesarean to save the child. Sharp nails dug into my tender palms. Nanny, I know you hold the formula for fertility. Who says this world only allows cesareans? I, Qin Zhe, will choose to give birth naturally. I want my child, and I want the power of the marquis household. I refuse to be anyone's plaything for the rest of my life. The matron's eyes burned red, yet she clasped my hand tightly. Young mistress, whatever decision you make, this old servant will always stand by you. From that day on, I treated everything concerning Lu Yanjia and Lu Qingxi like lifeless clay, neither questioning nor probing. Even when Lu Yanjia and the dowager marquisess tested me, I merely wore a blank, innocent smile. Every moment of intimacy with Lu Yanjia filled me with utter revulsion, especially knowing he'd rushed to other men's beds afterward. After each encounter, I'd down every last drop of the fertility potion. Then I'd rush to the washroom, scrubbing every inch of my skin raw. Yet after half a year of such humiliation, my womb remained barren, unable to endure any longer. I pretended to return home to tend to an illness and sought out a renowned gynecologist for a thorough examination, only to learn that my body was perfectly healthy. There was no reason I couldn't conceive after 6 months. Grandmother sent the female physician away. Mother looked dazed, murmuring, "Could it be that her words have come true?" I pressed. Only then did mother yield. "After your marriage, my heart was uneasy. Step by step, I climbed the temple stairs to pray for children for you. But the master said, 'Your husband has indulged in too many secret affairs. He will surely remain childless this lifetime.' My heart trembled, and I forced myself to forget those words. But now, half a year after your wedding, you are in perfect health. What more is there to understand?" So that was it. Once the root cause was found, the solution became clear. After returning to the marquis residence, I lay low for half a month. Then, under the pretext of seeking fertility, I took up residence in Peach Blossom Valley, renowned as the most potent place for such prayers. On the climb up the mountain, Nanny Ma'am grew uneasy. "Young lady, are you truly set on this path? This Peach Blossom Valley has thrived for nearly a century, helping countless women conceive. This servant fears that one day the truth might come out. There will always be clever people in this world. What then shall become of you and the other daughters of the Shen family who married out?" I had noticed, ever since coming with me to the marquis residence, Nanny Ma had grown timid day by day. Yet she grows more talkative by the day. I sighed. The Duchess of Angua remained childless for 5 years after marriage. After bathing and burning incense in Peach Blossom Valley, she devoted herself to prayer for 3 days. Upon returning to the capital, she conceived a son. Princess Zhaohua bore no heir for 7 years after her marriage. It was also in Peach Blossom Valley that she obtained her offspring. Nanny, tell me who would dare expose Peach Blossom Valley's schemes, and who would take on such a case? As we spoke, the young guide from Peach Blossom Valley was already waiting at the entrance. All the servants we brought were refused entry to the valley. Only Nanny and I were permitted. The boy's voice was childish yet firm. Sincerity brings blessings. We humbly request your understanding. Madam, understanding. How could I not understand? The fewer who knew of Peach Blossom Valley's schemes, the better. Everything unfolded exactly as I had imagined. After bathing and burning incense, that night a burly man came under the pretense of examining my body, gradually making his way onto my bed. Throughout, I feigned innocence and played along. Afterwards, I swallowed the fertility pills Nurse Nye had prepared for me in advance. For 3 consecutive days, the room was dimly lit. I couldn't see the man's face. He didn't know my identity either. This was for the best, sparing us future troubles. Over a month after returning to the estate, I felt nauseous during my morning meal. The imperial physician took my pulse. The long-awaited heir was on the way. That very night, the Dowager Marquis went to the ancestral hall. She didn't emerge until the second day, when the sky began to lighten, rubbing her stiff knees as she left. Immediately after, bird's nest, white fungus, and all manner of nourishing tonics flowed into my courtyard like a river. Lu Yinjia often came to visit me personally, whether from pent-up frustration or sheer jealousy. Lu Qingxi often made suggestive gestures and uttered ambiguous remarks at the dinner table. Yet every time Lu Yinjia drew close, my heart would race with unease. Nanny secretly swapped the sachet from his waist and sought a physician's examination. The sachet contained a substance harmful to the mother's body. It wouldn't affect the fetus development, but on the day of delivery, it would cause me to bleed to death on the birthing bed. I had devoted all my thoughts to the delivery, never imagining the other party would be so impatient. Since that was the case, reciprocation was only proper. I deliberately chose a moment when both Lu Yinjia and Lu Qingxi were present, feigning stomach pain to summon the estate physician. The physician, bribed beforehand by the wet nurse, immediately declared it a healthy male fetus. Lu Yinjia was overjoyed. "Qinjia, thank you for giving me an heir." Watching Lu Qingxi's sour expression, I feigned weakness and nestled into Lu Yanzi's embrace. "Your lordship, this is just the beginning. Well, have a second, third, fourth chilled a house full of descendants. You can thank me later." Lu Qingxi could bear it no longer. Though clearly unable to ride, she mounted a horse and galloped away. Whip cracking, Lu Yanzi's heart tore apart. Forgetting all pretense, he shoved me aside and spurred his horse after her. "Qingxi, you can't ride. Don't be reckless." The wet nurse and I exchanged a glance. Then she nodded firmly at me, holding my belly. I sipped bird's nest soup in small sips and paced the courtyard over a dozen times. Only then did I settle onto the small couch to await news. Childbirth was perilous. All schemes depended on my maintaining robust health. That evening, after supper and digestion, the wet nurse approached me with a radiant smile. "Young mistress, heaven itself is on our side. Our people sent a message to Zhou, Lu Qingxi's fiancé, 7 days ago. We never expected her to come to the capital so soon. But Zhou's aunt turned out to be a heartless woman. She tried to sell Zhou to a brothel for silver. With Zhou isolated and helpless, her fiancé Lu Qingxi became her last hope. And the portrait we sent was so lifelike. Miss Zhou fled her aunt's house that very night. Today, she nearly got caught by her aunt again, but by sheer coincidence, she stumbled right under Lu Qingxi's horse. I couldn't help but chuckle. Who would have thought a pawn picked at random could play such a pivotal role? And then, Nurse Ma downed 2 whole jugs of water before continuing. Lu Qingxi couldn't ride at all. When our marquis saw the horse bolt, he didn't think twice, leaped onto Lu Qingxi's mount, clutched her waist, and only then managed to rein in the frantic beast. Little did he know the one saved beneath the horse's hooves was none other than Lu Qingxi's fiancé, whether out of spite or a shared sense of loss. Upon learning Miss Zhou's purpose, Lu Qingxi took pity on her. He personally escorted her to a tailor shop to buy new clothes, then found a courtyard in Willow Lane to settle her in. I couldn't help but narrow my eyes. Lu Yinjia must be furious, right? Nanny's smile grew even brighter. Everyone present saw clearly. and with my prearranged people in the crowd adding fuel to the fire. The sordid affair between our marquis and Liu Qingxi has long become the laughingstock of everyone's after-dinner conversations. I curved my lips. Pass this news discreetly to Miss Zhou. She burned her bridges by sneaking out of her aunt's house, proof she's decisive. Now that Liu Qingxi is her last lawful, shall cling to him desperately. Only when the marquis is overwhelmed with troubles can we safely bring our child into the world. Watching the wet nurse's excited figure disappear, I couldn't help but narrow my eyes. Let chaos reign. Without it, how could I seize my opportunity? Plotting against one's own husband. Such a Crimean woman of the Shin family could never bear such a burden. The wet nurse relayed news she gathered daily. It added a splash of color to my monotonous days of preparing for pregnancy. Miss Zhou, frail and helpless, knelt before Liu Qingxi. She wept as she recounted their childhood friendship, even mentioning Liu Qingxi's deceased mother. Miss Zhou is clever. Upon learning of Lord Liu Qingxi's relationship with our marquis, she boldly broke the ice, standing by his side as a friend to plead his case. She said, "The marquis is compelled by his mother's authority to produce an heir for the marquisate. Brother Qingxi, if our aunt were still alive, could she bear to see you without an heir? Brother Qingxi, rest assured, Weiner has given up on romantic love. My only wish is to find a place to call home. The Liu family needs an heir, and Weiner needs a man by her side. Could you help me, Brother Qingxi? For the sake of our childhood friendship." I couldn't help but give her a thumbs up. Zhou won her own word. Ruthless. In the year since Liu Yanzi's marriage, Liu Qingxi had swallowed countless grievances. That day, when Liu Yanzhi supported me, the longing for a child in his eyes had deeply wounded Liu Qingxi. Thus, Zhou Weiner's heartfelt plea, entirely framed from Liu Qingxi's perspective, tapped into his deepest guilt. His deceased mother. Weighing the pros and cons, she suggested taking in the young brother born to his stepmother, allowing him to inherit all of the Liu family's resources. Finally, Liu Qingxi was persuaded. He took Zhou Weiner's hand and made a grand return to the Liu residence. Preparations began for a formal wedding with all the traditional rituals of phoenix crown and ceremonial rebesto welcome Zhou Weiner into the family. How could Liu Yanzi endure this? The two argued incessantly day after day. Zhou Weiner pursued her goals gradually, while Liu Yanzhi employed forceful tactics, and my belly grew larger by the day. After a fierce argument with Liu Yanzhi, Liu Qingxi formally held the wedding ceremony with Zhou Weiner. Just as it had been during my own wedding to Liu Yanzhi, he took up residence in the Liu family's guest quarters. The wet nurse pursed her lips. On his wedding day, the marquis behaved like a courtesan. Getting drunk by the lake in the dead of winter wearing only a thin robe, young Master Liu couldn't care less about his bride. He immediately took off his cloak and half-dragged, half-carried the marquis back to the guest room. Rumor has it the guest house called for water 3 times that night. Guests at the banquet wore all manner of expressions, and the gossip outside grows uglier by the day. I whispered instructions into the wet nurse's ear. Her eyes widened. Must we truly go this far? How will the young heir bear it? I waved her off. Just do as I say. On the 3rd day after Liu Qingxi's wedding, gossip mongers spun his romantic escapades with Liu Yanzi into a sensational storybook, circulating it through taverns and tea houses. In the storybook, Zhou Weiner and I were portrayed as obstacles forcibly thrust between them by their families. They were pitiful creatures, compelled by familial duty to bear children, forced to endure the humiliation of marrying women. The story concluded with the pair breaking free from societal shackles, securing an heir, and remaining devoted companions for life. As for Zhou Weiner and me, mere tools for perpetuating the family line, our roles in the tale were reduced to a mere 2 sentences. Lady Shen suffered a difficult labor. Alas! The young heir of the marquis' household lost his mother at birth. After Liu Qingxi and Liu Yanzhi wandered the world, Zhou Weiner raised their child alone, truly deserving the title of virtuous and kind. At first, everyone was immersed in their love story, but whose family doesn't have sisters? As they listened, the crowd grew furious. The marquise died in childbirth. How is the young heir pitiful? Wasn't the most pitiful one the marquise. Deceived into marriage. What a convenient coincidence. The marquis, with his fondness for men, needed a woman to bear an heir. The moment the child was born, the marquise suffered a difficult delivery. Madame Zoe endured a living widowhood, raising the child alone as that truly worthy of virtuous and kind. Did both men die? Deceitful marriage. Abusing an innocent woman. How could such people hold office in the court? What bullshit love. All I hear is cannibalism. Some voices defended. Don't you find this forbidden love breaking taboos utterly beautiful? Regardless. After this spread, the love story between the Marquis and young Master Lu became known to almost every household. Even if I hadn't been prepared. Even if I'd been caught completely off guard. Given the current public sentiment, Lu Yanzhou wouldn't dare openly take my life. After a day and night of agony, I gave birth to a lovely baby boy. The marquis' mother couldn't put him down. That very day, she personally went to the palace to petition for my child to be named crown prince. During this time, Lu Yanzhou and Lu Qingxi were frantically trying to ban these storybooks to maintain appearances. Lu Qingxi paid no heed to Lu Yanzhou's grief, pairing up daily with Zhou Weiner to go shopping. He even spent his nights in Zhou Weiner's chambers. Lu Yanzhou drowned his sorrows in wine in his study day after day. I had no time to concern myself with him, focusing instead on nourishing myself daily according to the recuperative regimen prepared by the wet nurse. Health is the foundation of everything. Only with a strong body can I personally support my son and help him establish a firm foothold in the Marquis household. Of course, confinement is terribly boring, so I instructed the wet nurse to secretly add the herbs Lu Yanzhou once kept in his pouch, the ones meant to cause me to hemorrhage and die, into his wine. The wet nurse understood my loneliness. She shared the results with me daily. The Marquis has dark circles under his eyes lately and seems listless. After drinking today, the Marquis had a nosebleed. The court physician only said it was heat toxicity. The Marquis has been unusually sleepy lately, lacking even the energy to argue with Lu Qingxi. Naturally, Nanny never missed updates on Lu Qingxi's side either. Zhou Weiner is with child. I couldn't help but frown. Didn't the physician say that because those two were so reckless, they'd never have children in this lifetime? Nanny's smile grew even gentler. Madame Zhou is sensible. To help her mother-in-law light the eternal lamp, she stayed at the temple for half a month. Well then, how splendid. Both sworn brothers have heirs now. It's fitting for our ancestors. Her situation is difficult. If she faces any hardship, please lend her your support. Have the messenger and the court physician been arranged? Nanny skillfully lifted the child to change his diaper. Do you not trust this old servant? You just focus on caring for our young heir and restoring your health. Leave the rest to me. I nodded, then added, increase the dosage if necessary. Strike while he's down. Never let him regain the upper hand. Nanny waved dismissively. Rest assured, Lady Zhou excels at sowing discord between them. They bicker daily. The Marquis practically sleeps in the wine cellar now. After a moment's thought, I reminded her. Exercise caution with the Dowager Marquis side as well. Nanny smiled and teased the little bundle again. The old lattice heart is entirely devoted to our young master. Because of the matter between the Marquis and young Master Lu, she hasn't dared to go out and socialize lately. She has no mind left to tend to the Marquis. I clasped Nanny's hand tightly. Nanny, it's all my fault. I've made you dirty your hands. Nanny carefully tucked the quilt around me. Either dirty my hands or accompany you in death. This old servant knows your heartache. Everything we do is merely to protect ourselves. But I never imagined Zhou Weiner would move faster than us. This day was my son's full-month celebration. The Marquis' mother held her breath, determined to make me appear radiant before everyone. She wanted to prove to all that the gossip books couldn't be trusted. Before the banquet began, she must have sternly warned both the Marquis and Lu Qingxi. Thus, at the full-month feast, the Marquis stood by my side and our child, putting on a perfect facade. Lu Qingxi also attended, gently supporting Zhou Weiner. whose belly showed the signs of pregnancy. The guests at the banquet all murmured, "Who would be so spiteful? The Marquis and his wife are so devoted to each other, and Lord Liu and his wife share such deep affection. How could anyone spread such rumors? Oh, it's just sour grapes. People are jealous of the Marquis and Lord Liu's friendship." The wet nurse and I exchanged a knowing glance, our lips curling into meaningful smiles. The Marquis learned quickly had already picked up the trick of orchestrating scenes. I had no intention of stirring trouble at my son's banquet, so I simply greeted the guests with a smile. Yet after 3 rounds of wine, Lady Zhou accidentally spilled an entire jug over Lu Qingxi. In the depths of winter, Lu Yinzhen naturally hurried to take Lu Qingxi to change his clothes. "The courtyard you stay in has always been reserved for you. Come. They'll take you to change into fresh clothes before returning," Nanny whispered in my ear. "The incense in the guest room has been replaced with spring blossom powder. Shall we quietly switch it back?" Catching the eager glint in Zhou Weiner's eyes, I waved her off. "Let's wait and see." Half a quarter of an hour later, Zhou Weiner's maid rushed in, flustered. "Madam, it's all my fault. I forgot master is allergic to peanuts. He just drank peanut milk. Our master has been gone so long without returning. I'm so worried." As the hostess, I naturally wouldn't let Zhou Weiner's little drama collapse. Ignoring the warning glance from Lady Ho, I supported Zhou Weiner and reassured her. "Lady Liu, don't worry. They'll bring the household physician and accompany you both to check on him." The other ladies present, naturally unwilling to be seen as cold-hearted, followed us to the back courtyard. Noises echoed continuously from the study. The assembled guests exchanged glances, their eyes flashing with curiosity. Yet Zhou Weiner seemed utterly oblivious. Flinging open the door abruptly, "Husband, are you all right?" A figure, pale and intertwined, was exposed before everyone. Zhou Weiner clutched her belly, gasping in shock. Immediately after, blood gushed forth from beneath her. The entire crowd was horrified. Good heavens, what kind of hellish spectacle is this? The Marquis is utterly disgraceful. At his son's full moon banquet, he's cavorting with a man in the study. The gossip books weren't exaggerating, these two are revolting. Quick, summon the court physician. Lady Liu's condition is critical. The child mustn't come to harm. Lady Ho slammed the door shut and barked at me. "Chen Shi, hurry and have the court physician examine Lady Liu." I felt as if I'd been struck dumb. Tears welled in my eyes as I stammered, "Please, have the court physician examine Lady Liu." Then, feigning overwhelming distress, I turned pleadingly to the other ladies. "My apologies for the poor hospitality today. I shall personally visit to offer my apologies in the future." Everyone was sharp. Having witnessed the spectacle, none wished to linger and get caught up in the mess. Soon, the once bustling courtyard was left with only the sounds of Lu Yinzhe and Lu Qingxi's intimate embrace. Madame Ho, furious, ordered icy water to be brought and poured it directly over the two. I promptly ordered the wet nurse to tidy the room, watching her toss the incense altar out as well. I snapped to attention. "Mother, what on earth was that spectacle? How could my husband and young Master Liu end up together like that? How will our son ever show his face in public again? I might as well take the child and return home." Lady Howe's face darkened as she closed her eyes. "You are, after all, the Marquis' wife. How can you be so irresponsible? First, see to Lady Liu's arrangements. If the Marquis is ridiculed, do you think you and the child will fare well?" On the way back with Zhou Weiner, she gave me a knowing smile before closing her eyes to rest. Human hearts are fickle. I wished to avoid further complications. I merely escorted her back properly, helped her find a physician, then returned directly to the manor. Nanny looked grave. "The Marquis is not well." I hurried to the study to find Lady Ho weeping bitterly while holding the Marquis. Blood flowed from his nose and mouth. His complexion was as pale as gold paper. The estate physician trembled. His lordship suffered a sudden stroke. The icy water chilled his body. I did all I could. The Dowager Lady Ho wept with heart-wrenching grief. Young Master Liu's face was ashen. How could it be so severe? At these words, the Dowager Lady House's pent-up fury finally found an outlet. She kicked and punched him. It's all your fault. Mr. Liu felt utterly defeated. In her fury, the Dowager Marquis grabbed a knife from the wall and lunged at him. By the time the Dowager Marquis collapsed from exhaustion, Mr. Liu was barely clinging to life. I hurriedly had the wet nurse support the Dowager Marquis to rest. Lu Yanzi's voice was faint as a thread. Qingci, I ruined the brilliant life you should have had. Turning to catch my gaze, Lu Yanzi's expression darkened. Qinzhua. I had no choice. I'm sorry. I smiled softly, leaning close to whisper in his ear, enunciating each word clearly. After Tuanzi is born, well, be even. Lu Yanzi's eyes widened in shock. He pointed at me, stammering. Two. I smiled and finished his sentence. Rest assured, Your Lordship, I will assist too in safeguarding the Ho mansion. Lu Yanzi gasped for air, then collapsed, dead from the shock. Catching the venom in Lu Qingci's eyes, I added fuel to the fire. Young Master Liu, there's no need to envy the Marquis. After all, Zhou Weiner will ensure you have an heir. I deliberately emphasized the word you. Lu Qingci's eyes blazed crimson with rage. Poisonous woman. Both of you are poisonous women. But the Dowager Marquis, to avoid suspicion, had already dismissed the servants. I slapped him twice across the face. When you and the Marquis plotted against my Shen family, why didn't you call yourself a poisonous man? Men as vile as you deserve to die childless. Lu Qingci, already clinging to life by a thread, found his deepest suspicions confirmed. He could utter no more words. His eyes wide as he drew his last breath. To the outside world, it was simply announced that the Marquis and Lu Qingci had passed away from a dreadful illness. Lady Ho was devastated, spending her days confined to her sickbed. I raised Tuanzi while simultaneously taking over the vast power of the Ho residence. When Tuanzi was 6 months old, Zhou Wan gave birth to a healthy baby boy. This time, we remained silent, never contacting one another again. When Tuanzi turned 3, my younger brother passed the imperial examination as a third-place scholar and sought to marry a princess. My eldest sister, blessed with good fortune, bore a healthy son to the elderly prince, who had few heirs. She voluntarily gave the child to the princess, thereby securing her own freedom. Though my younger sister married into a coarse merchant family, they had favors to ask of my brother and me, so they always treated her with respect. When she ran her embroidery workshop, she used her skill with the needle to design many new patterns. Through my introduction, her work won the favor of the imperial consorts, propelling her husband's family into the ranks of imperial merchants. In private, she held her infant daughter close and smiled sweetly. Her father may be coarse, but his heart is kind. He treats me and the child well. As long as you and my younger brother stand firm, I won't suffer hardship in this lifetime. Only then did my anxious heart finally settle. Life is good when it flows smoothly. The end.